All right, let's talk some about painting. I'm getting pretty close to the point in the project. It's the Stevens Aeromodel G-480 that I need to start thinking about painting the cowl. So let's talk some about painting. First and foremost, I am not an expert on painting. I've never had any sort of formal training at art schools on painting. The only thing that I've learned is from a lot of trial and error, trying different paints, trying different ways to mix paints, different ways of reducing them. I love airbrushing. I've done a fair amount of airbrushing on plastic models, and I've tried to apply what I learned with plastic models into the RC arena. But I mean, I am certainly no expert on it. I'm just going to kind of show you what I do. I'm also a little bit limited because of where I live. I'm a little bit limited in what I can get. So I have to work with what I can get. As you can see, I use acrylics with electric power. The clear coat is not a requirement. The only time you might need a clear coat is if you want to change the sheen of the final paint job. So I like to use acrylics. They're easy to work with. You can use water, alcohol to reduce them. They're easy to clean up. They're easy to shoot for the most part. I have found at least one paint that is not so easy to shoot with an airbrush. But for the most part, they're pretty good. They're very economical because basically I'm thinning the paint about 1 part in 10 with the reducer to get it to flow through an airbrush. A lot of times that requires multiple coats, many coats. I guess that's kind of a trade-off because there's so much water or alcohol in there, they don't dry as fast as, say, a lacquer-based paint. I mix all of my own colors. You can make any color that you want with the 3 primaries, red, yellow, and blue. Those are your 3 primaries, and then white and black. Those are your tints. These aren't really colors, these are tints. The only trick really is make sure you make enough in case you have to do some touch-up. I've also found I like these inks. I've found these in the university art store where I get my paints. These are pretty nice. They're really thin. And I've used those occasionally. Primer. Sometimes I use this stuff for small projects such as this one, because this stuff is super expensive. This one can is $20 US. It is super expensive, so I use it sparingly. I use some automotive primer, but that requires an air gun, and if I can get away from having to use the air gun and clean it up afterwards, I'll use this. The acrylics, I use alcohol, a mix of alcohol and water, a little bit of glycerin, and a drop or 2 of liquid soap to make the paint flow. This is 95%. It says 95, and I think that means percent. Not quite sure, but I think it's 95%. I don't think this would be called denatured alcohol. Isn't in the States. I know denatured alcohol is ethanol with poison added so you can't drink it. This is ethanol. And it might be denatured, I don't know. I don't know if you can drink this or not. I'm certainly not going to. But this stuff works pretty well for reducing your paints. Alright, that's just a quick and dirty on the paint. What I want to do first is give the surface a very, very light sanding with some 240 grit paper. You don't really want to create a lot of scratches, but you just want to kind of roughen the surface up a little bit. It does give the primer a better grip to hold on. And then after that, I'll be cleaning it off with some alcohol. And then after that, we'll shoot it with some primer. And after that dries and the rest of the model is covered, we can come back and start painting. And you don't want to create deep scratches. I wouldn't go any less than 240. 320 might even work well. It's a little bit finer. But I just use a very light touch as I'm going over this. You can see I'm not creating hardly any dust at all. You can kind of check your progress by rubbing your finger across what you sanded as to what you've not sanded, and you can tell a noticeable difference right there. Alright, I didn't mention it, but I'm also going to paint the inside of the cowl black. I certainly don't want to have a nicely covered model and a nicely painted outside of the cowl and then have this white on the inside. So the black on the inside will create a nice shadow effect, helping to hide the firewall, the motor mount, all that stuff. This is to get any residual mold release off, try to get rid of fingerprints. Yes, I know I'm holding it with my other hand. However, after I get this part, I'm going to switch and put a glove on. And from that point on, I try not to handle the cowl with bare. For wet sanding this, repainting, I'm going to give the clear blue a shot on the bottom. Doesn't really cost me anything except a little bit of paint. And I just want to see how this is going to turn out. And I'm even going to leave this little bit of red that I sprayed here. I'm going to leave it there just to kind of see how it all plays together. I probably won't use it, but I just at least want to see what it's like. Now I'm not going to mask. I don't want a hard line here. I'm going to shoot for a soft transition. And that'll be a little bit tricky right here, not getting everything else. But that's what I'm shooting for. Again, it doesn't really cost me anything. It's a good way to just kind of play around, since I'm gonna more than likely end up repainting this whole thing anyway. Let's see how it plays together. Yeah, that might actually be kind of neat. If I could get the right red, that might could be pretty neat. Alright, so that's kind of how it would look from the front. And then underneath, the blue, and then the white. Blue in the front, and the blue, I don't have the tail skid in, but blue in back. That might actually look pretty good. Yeah. If only. I might try some whole bean red inks. Try the same process with like a chrome silver base and then a red ink on top of that. But I'll have to go to the store for those. I don't have any red inks. But yeah, it might be kind of cool looking actually. Last night after wrapping up, I was thinking about the cowl again, and I had two more choices I could try to do before making the 3-hour round trip trek to the art store for more paint. I thought I would just spray some white. I have a little bit of gloss white left that I had used many years ago. Fortunately, it wasn't all dried up. And I was going to put that down and then spray. Actually, I tested both. The Tamiya flat and this stuff here. It's called Viejo Premium Airbrush Color. It's specifically for RC models. On the I think somewhere here it says it's fuel resistant to 15% nitro or 30% nitro, something like that. Anyway, I'd gotten it before for a J3 Cub, this one right up here. Hoping it would be fuel proof. I found out that in fact it was not fuel proof, not even really fuel resistant. But anyway, that's beside the point. So I laid down a little bit of white, and then I came back over with this Viejo Premium, and that actually looked pretty good next to the fuselage. So I thought, okay, I'll spray the white and then let it dry overnight and then come back and spray this red. Well, this morning I get up and I look at the white, and you know, it really doesn't look too bad like it is. It needs a little more gloss. And I had never really thought about putting white on. I thought red would have looked better, but the white really doesn't look all that bad when you include the white on the wings and the tail. So I just may leave this the way it is. I'm still making that 3.5-hour trek or 3-hour round trip trek today to the art store to get some more paint anyway. But I might just leave this white. I did mask the bottom with the blue. I wanted to try to keep that. Looks like it's going to need a little bit of touch up, but that shouldn't be a problem. Spraying the Tamiya clear blue. I think I'll just leave the bottom as is. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go with the white. I had to ask my quality control personnel, otherwise known as my wife, and she said she liked the white. And I think it looks pretty decent. So I think I'll go with it. Okay, if you remember, I had to touch up the bottom of the cowl here with tape pulled away some of the paint. At first I was going to go back with that Tamiya clear blue, and then I thought, you know, I might try these inks. I like these inks. These are whole bean acrylic inks. At first I was going to try this darker one because it was more transparent. They have transparency ratings on the back of them. So this primary cyan is almost transparent, or I guess they're rating it is transparent. But as you can see, it has kind of a darker blue. And then their cobalt blue has a little less transparency. And so I ended up trying that, and I actually like the way it works. It's still a little bit wet here, but it dries to a very flat sheen. Spray is really nice. You can spray it right out of the bottle, no reducing required. And it's a pretty doggone good match for the bottom color. Let me try to show you here. So it's a pretty doggone good match there. I'll have to end up putting gloss on it. I'll probably use Future, but I have to do the top as well. You can see it's got a little bit of a shine to it. I ended up using this white paint. They call it white, but it's more like a metallic color, maybe a pearlized white. I don't know. It looks pretty good. I'm gonna go with it. It's probably gonna need some more future as well to make it a little more shiny, a little glossy. Yeah, let me put the future on. We'll let this ink dry first, and then we'll put some future on it and show you how that all looks. I did apply some future to the cowl. I gave it about 4 or 5, maybe 6 coats of future on the top and the bottom. Let's see if we can get a better picture here. If you remember, the ink was very, very flat, so the future has given it a nice, so I can find a nice shine, and there we go. That sheen is pretty consistent all the way around.